What's up, guys? I just got back from watching Insidious 5, The Red Door, which was originally going to be called Into the Further or Fear the Dark, which was confusing. Um, I was skeptical when this movie was announced because I thought they were going to have the same thing they had with 3 and 4, where they had a different writer and director, because Lee Winnell wrote both of one and 2. And those are pretty decent movies. They're pretty good. But when I read that Lee Winnell wrote this one, I was like, what? And then I heard Patrick Wilson is directing it, and I was like, what? So that immediately made my expectations skyrocket. So I was going into this movie expecting it to be at least good. Um, yes, this movie turned out to be just as good as I had hoped. And I had a good viewing experience. I went to go see this during the day. There was only maybe like 6 to 10 people in there, but they had the volume at like just the right volume, because sometimes they'll do the volume too loud and it's too much, or they won't do it loud enough and it's not scary. But they had it at just the right volume, so everything was landing. And I love the way they open with the movie, and they through exposition you realize, oh, they've been under, because I watched the trailer, but I hadn't seen the trailer in a minute, so I was going into this kind of almost fresh. I kind of knew what to expect almost because I had seen the trailer, but I was trying to blank it out of my mind as much as possible so I could soak it in as much as I could. But I love how they introduce with the funeral scene that they had. It kind of reestablishes you and reintroduces you into the world, and they do a really good job with that. And it feels natural. It doesn't feel like forced or contrived. And what's really cool is they immediately set up like tension in the beginning with like this just like character in the background just kind of slowly walking. And it's like, I mean, because that tension kind of fades really quick when they start establishing the the external plot. Because I've been reading the script writing book, the screenwriter's bible, and it talks about how there's an internal plot and there's an external plot. The internal is like the emotional journey of the characters, the central characters, and the external plot is like the plot itself, the actions that drive the internal. And I love how immediately like there's tension between Dalton and his dad, and that's what's really cool too. Is this is a Dalton focused movie, and the acting was pretty good. I mean, the main actor that plays Dalton, he was kind of stoic, kind of stiff, but it made sense. You know, it felt in character with what they were trying to portray. With him kind of like being numb and kind of like lost and kind of just in a fog, it made sense. So I really did enjoy that. And then like, yeah, that first emotional confrontation between him and his dad, and it's like, ooh, this is really good acting. And the directing is really well done too, because there's just so many scenes where it'll start off with the like a 180 over the shoulder, 180 over the shoulder, but then it'll switch to like a overhead, like looking down for both characters, and then it'll go back to like that same shot, but it's wider, so there's more space beside them. So it's like it's subconsciously like making you scared with the framing of the characters, and it's dude, it's really well done. I was on the edge of my seat even when I knew there might not be anything that would happen. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna do that jump scare they did in the first one where he looks behind his mom and the fucking lipstick face demons. Ah! So it's really cool that they use that to their advantage, and they didn't pay it off. They didn't pay it off, which was really good because it kept the suspense the whole time. Like, I think it's more rewarding if you had seen the first movie and the second movie. You don't really have to watch the third or fourth movie. But if you'd seen those two movies, it's way more of a rewarding experience in terms of like the suspense building. And what I also love too is the MRI scene. Is it's different in the trailer, which is really cool because they subvert your expectations if you had seen the trailer, which probably you have if you're going to see this movie, and it subverts your expectations. It draws out the suspense. It's really good at building suspense, and sometimes it'll pay it off, and sometimes it'll pay it off or sometimes it won't pay it off. It'll just like, let you bask in your fear, and then when it does pay it off, it lingers just long enough to get you like, and then when it pays it off, you're like, ah, yeah, it's really well done, and it has a happy ending too. I don't think there's a post credit, but yeah, lipstick face demon returns. I wish we would have seen more of him, to be honest. But when you do see him, it's really cool, and in my head I'm questioning like, why is Elise not interfering? Why is blah blah blah? But it really didn't matter because it wasn't consequential to the story that the film was trying to tell. the The theme is like, um, not necessarily forgetting your past, but remembering it so you can move on and heal in a productive, constructive way rather than trying to forget it and letting it fester up into something else, something worse, which is cool. And then um, the climax, like, is kind of short lived, I feel like, because Dalton does get possessed, but he doesn't really do much when he's possessed. So there didn't feel like there was a lot of stakes. Like the only stakes was his kind of love interest. She's kind of a love interest, more of a friend, but they hint that she could be a love interest. But she's the only one that's in mortal danger. That's kind of her whole gig. They made her quirky and fun, so she was immediately likable. But that was really the only stakes outside of Dalton like losing, his body, to be honest. So I feel like the stakes weren't necessarily as high as they maybe could be for an Insidious 5. But that's fine. It's not like a like end of the world kind of whatever, but it's kind of a nitpick, to be honest. Um yeah, but overall, and the score is really good too. Yeah, score, cinematography, direction, acting, it's all really good. Yeah. And got into an argument over Reddit about this dude. He was like, "Oh, well, what kind of?" I was trying to make a claim that the Insidious and Conjuring movies 1 and 2, Insidious and The Conjuring are objectively good movies, but usually like pretentious snobs on Reddit, they're like, oh, they're so generic, they're so fucking so bad. It's like, no, they're objectively good movies, but they're they exceed at what they're trying to do. They're trying to be haunted house movies, but they do it to a super good degree, a mainstream degree that is accessible to so many people, which is hard to do, and they succeed, which is why they're great and they're memorable and they're iconic at this point. Even though I remember watching these in theaters, now I'm getting old and stuff, and now they're like fucking legendary classics, but there's still people that are like, oh, they're so generic. It's like, I guess that's a good thing. They go through the phase where like, oh, they're pretty good, and then oh, they're generic, and then it's like, oh, this is a classic. I think that's like the lifespan of a good movie, a good horror movie, maybe. I don't know, but I'm still, because I used to think that too. Oh, they're so generic. Because you would ask someone what their favorite horror movie was, and be like, I like Insidious, I like The Conjuring, and they would just like list like mainstream things, and you're just like, dude, but what about like like, and then I would be like, oh, what about the Shining, or what about Sleepaway Camp, and just like go into like this shit that like most mainstream horror people don't give a fuck about, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like Motel Hell or fucking, I don't know, the original Hellraiser. I don't know. I'm trying to get, what's a deep cut? What's a deep cut that most people? Let's say Lord of Illusions. I know a lot of people haven't seen Lord of Illusions. I don't. I'm getting lost in the weeds here. I'm getting lost in the weeds. But anyways, what was I? I just fucked the whole ending of this video up. I just started rambling. It's okay. Anyways, go watch this movie because it's good. It's good. It's good. Yeah, watch the first and second one if you want. If you want to watch all the movies in order, watch 4, 3, 1, 2, 5. That's the way you got to do it. But 3 and 4 are not necessary viewings. I mean, they add a little bit to the lore or whatever. Oh yeah, that was one complaint that someone said on Reddit, is like, Insidious sucks because it has one of the coolest premises of having the further, but then they don't expand upon it. And it's like the point of the movie is not the further. Like, sure, it's cool when they add lore, but I mean, there's not a whole lot. I guess there is a lot you could do, but that's not the point of the movie. They're not trying to create a cinematic universe. It just so happened to be like that because James Wan and Lee Winnell made good fucking movies, and they made a lot of money. And the studio was like, hey, make more. But their intent was never to expand upon the lore. So I think that's kind of a misguided critique. But I could understand the frustration with wanting to see more with what you could do with the further, because there are so many things you could do with the further. I'm sure there's some good recommendations out there, but like I said, that's not the point of the fucking movie. So yeah, man, check that shit out. Wow.